Ben Sasse, who has invoked the ire of many conservatives in recent weeks and months because he was a never-Trumper and he often attacks members of his own party and he was censured by his own state Republican Party. Sasse had a great performance yesterday going after Xavier Becerra. Becerra was the former Attorney General of California and a real radical. Becerra went after nuns, tried, just like the Obama-Biden administration did. Becerra went after nuns because he wanted to force them to pay for abortion drugs and contraceptives. So Sasse grilled him on this point.
I tried to say to Senator Grassley, I understand that Americans have different, deeply held beliefs on this particular issue, and I absolutely respect that. By the way, I have never sued the nuns, any nuns. I have taken on the federal government, but I've never sued any affiliation of nuns.
Hold up. Point that there before we really get into what Sasse says. It is technically true that Becerra never sued nuns. What he did was even crazier. He wanted to sue nuns. The federal government, under the Trump administration, would not let him sue nuns and to try to force them to pay for abortion drugs and contraceptives. So Becerra sued the federal government so that he could get his right back to sue the nuns and try to force them to pay for abortion and contraceptives. Sasse, totally not going to take his lame excuses.
You know well, you're an incredibly smart man, you know well that what the federal government did was make sure that you couldn't target the nuns. So you sued the federal government because the federal government said the nuns didn't have to buy contraceptive insurance. You can put 17 layers of you were following the law to go after the federal government for administering the program or doing X or doing Y that made it difficult for California to administer the program. But it was just about nuns buying contraceptive coverage. Was there something else the federal government did that you were suing them for when in the case called California versus Little Sisters of the Poor?
Senator, the case was not, again, that was not the name of the case. And what I will tell you is that our actions were based on trying to follow the law, that when the federal government took action, which we believe did not comport with the law, at that point we took action. And our action was based on the law. And so, as I've said, we may disagree on how we see this, and I respect the differences that we may have, but my action was to follow the law.
No, it wasn't. Your action was to attack the law, to dispute the law in court because the federal government interpreted this federal law, and you didn't like it because the government's interpretation said you couldn't sue the nuns. So please stop this ridiculous posturing, this ridiculous proceduralist posturing, and get to the heart of it. You wanted to sue the nuns to make them pay for abortions and contraceptives, and the federal government didn't want you to do it, so you sued them. Speaking of trying to grow the American family, speaking of trying to reverse this course of national death and decline, one good way to reduce that is to stop killing our babies and to encourage a culture of life rather than a culture of death. But Becerra is a good politician. You know, he's a shrewd guy, so he knows how to portray this where if you didn't know the facts of this case and you just watched this exchange, maybe you'd say, oh, they both got good points in. But Sasse, got to give it to him. He won't let up.
What about the law, as the federal government's conscience exceptions applied in the case where you sued the federal government, what about the law applied to anybody except the nuns and other similarly situated religious institutions? You were targeting religious liberty.
Because what about the law? I know we're talking about what about the law, though? What were you trying to do with the law, pal? And this is the big issue. Right now, under moderate Joe Biden's administration, you've got the leader of HHS pushing politics toward encouraging a culture of contraception and abortion. This is the issue. You've got this world in which the the government, right? I think the conservatives for too long have kind of embraced this libertarian idea that there's the government and the government can never do anything, and anything the government does is bad, and we can't ever use political power that people give us. And this has given the left the opportunity to completely transform the culture. But politics and culture, it's got a little blurry line in between those things, they can encourage things one way or the other. And by the way, when they say one thing, they exclude other things. So getting back to what we were talking to at the top of the show, if you have a culture, and a culture backed up by a political regime that says that it is simply a fact that men can become women, women can become men, and it's bigoted to say otherwise, and you drill this into kids' heads from kindergarten onwards, and then you use the law to say we should pump kids full of puberty blockers if, Jane likes to play football at Thanksgiving or something, and we should fundamentally change their biochemistry. What you're doing is you're saying this is the way the world works. And all of those incentives are going to be compounded. If you enjoyed that break from disinformation, historical revision, and screaming about the end of the world, be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you never miss another video.